Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Amanda Nichols, Communications Director here at Our Revolution, and I'm so glad to welcome all of you to our live call tonight as we tackle the topic of crypto corruption. Help us get things rolling by introducing yourself in the chat. Tell us your name, where you're from, and why you're tuning in. We have a great lineup tonight, including Senators Elizabeth Warren and Jeff Merkley, who are leading the charge against crypto corruption, as well as researcher and engineer Molly White, and Mark Hayes, a crypto expert with Americans for Financial Reform and Demand Progress. Crypto has become an urgent topic as Trump and the oligarchs push the Genius Act. They're trying to rig the game to enrich themselves. And as this new cryptocurrency is used to pour big money into campaigns and global financial schemes, we're going to break it all down tonight and how our movement can fight to stop this new source of corruption subverting our democracy. So real quick, let me see who we've got in the chat. Mary C. from Phoenix, Arizona. The chat is flying by. We've got Megan in Austin, JT in Houston, Nikki in Cleveland, Kathy Pedersen in Denver. We've got Michael in Sierra Vista, Arizona, Karen in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Kat is tuning in from Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco, and Doreen in the Hudson Valley. Just a few shout outs there. Once again, if you're just tuning in, my name's Amanda Nichols, and I'm the Communications Director here at Our Revolution. We are about to kick off our live crypto corruption call. I want you to keep boosting the chat, share this out to friends, get others to tune in. And in just a few minutes, we'll be kicking off an important conversation about cryptocurrency and how Trump and the oligarchs are trying to get this so-called Genius Act through Congress in order to grow their wealth and power at the expense of our democracy. We'll be joined by Senators Elizabeth Warren and Jeff Merkley. He's championing the new End Crypto Corruption Act, and Elizabeth Warren is investigating the Trump family and their ties with crypto. We'll also have Molly White, an independent researcher and engineer who will help us better understand just what crypto is and how it's being used to empower the oligarchs. Then we'll talk to Mark Hayes. He's the Associate Director of Crypto with our allies at Americans for Financial Reform and Demand Progress. Mark will dig into the Genius Act that was written by the crypto tycoons themselves, and Congress could vote on that very soon. If every Democrat votes no, we can stop this bill dead in its tracks. We cannot let Trump and the wealthy tech bros rig the rules to brazenly pad their own pockets. Real quick, our movement is committed to taking on Trump and the oligarchs on every front. So there's a lot of ways that you can get involved. You can join over 57,000 activists around the country who are part of our citizen action team. We're going to put a link in the chat right now that's got a handy little tool that you can choose the role that you want to participate in, from helping to organize events to amplifying messages on social media. There's something for everyone to do to help out. So real quick, we've just got about a minute or so before the call officially kicks off. So I'm going to do a few more shout outs here in the chat. We've got Dave from Erie, Pennsylvania. We've got Anti-Grifter from San Juan Island, Washington. We've got Bridget in Plymouth, New Hampshire. And Tom out in Oregon is tuning in, saying hi to some of his friends in the chat. It's great to see how much community is built here in the Our Revolution calls that we do. Cindy from Eastern Shore, Maryland. We've got Steve Segor in South Hadley, Massachusetts. Teresa and Bill are tuning in together from Minnesota. And we've got Mary Allen in Barrington, Illinois. We've got Jim also in New Hampshire, Barbara in New Orleans. We're hitting folks from coast to coast and everywhere in between. This is the kind of solidarity we like to see in these tough political moments that we find ourselves in, but we know that we have a lot of power as well. Just look at the numbers of folks that are pouring in. And we're also live on Facebook and Twitter, now X. So we want to get the message out online and in the Zoom room. So thank you all for being with us tonight. With that, let me hand it over to our host for the evening, Our Revolution Executive Director, Joseph Gevarghese. Joseph.
Thank you, Amanda Nichols. Brothers and sisters, good evening. My name is Joseph Kivargis. I'm the executive director of Our Revolution, and I want to welcome each and every one of you to our special town hall focused on fighting Trump's crypto corruption. We've got an all-star lineup joining us tonight, including U.S. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Jeff Merkley, as well as two of our country's leading anti-crypto crusaders. Molly White, she's an independent researcher and writer, and Hayes, who's with Americans for Financial Reform. But before I bring up our guest tonight, I want to give you a brief backstory behind the unholy alliance between the crypto oligarchs and President Trump. During his first term, Trump called crypto a scam. But now, in his second term, he wants to make America the crypto capital of the world. So, what changed Donald Trump's mind? Cha-ching. Maybe it's the fact that the crypto industry was the biggest donor in the 2024 election cycle. The industry spent well over $200 million. What did the industry want? Again, very simple. They wanted Donald Trump to roll back Joe Biden's regulation of cryptocurrency. And since taking office, Donald Trump is delivering. Donald Trump has dropped federal corruption cases against crypto companies. He's appointed Silicon billionaires to his cabinet, billionaires who are major backers of crypto ventures, including David Sacks, who he named as the White House crypto czar. And he's created a federal Bitcoin reserve in case we run out of Bitcoin. But look, it's not just Donald Trump's campaign contributors who are making bank right now. It's also Donald Trump's family. Just before the inauguration, Trump launched the Trump meme coin, and Trump has a dollar sign in front of it. So it's $Trump meme coin. It's now worth billions of dollars. The Trump family also launched its own crypto firm. It's called World Liberty Financial. It launched a stable coin as one of its products. It's called USD1, and now it's also worth billions. And just today, Eric Trump has a crypto company called American Bitcoin, and he just announced that it's going public. The bottom line here is the Trump family is getting rich off of all of these ventures, partly because crypto is a backdoor for foreign governments and corporate lobbyists to anonymously funnel money and buy influence with the first family. That's why last week, tens of thousands of Our Revolution members mobilized to stop Democratic senators from collaborating with the crypto industry to advance the Genius Act. It's a crypto industry bill that does nothing to stop public officials from profiteering off of cryptocurrencies and stable coins. That said, the Genius Act is not dead yet. Democrats are back at the negotiating table, and it may come up for a vote again this week or next week. That's why we need everyone who is on this call live here in the Zoom room or watching on social media to take action by signing our petitions. These petitions are delivered directly to members of the United States Senate, and we need to tell the Democrats, Number one, publicly oppose and vote against the Genius Act. We don't need the Genius Act. Condemn any legislation that enriches the Trump family and crypto oligarchs. And number three, lead the fight for transparency, anti corruption, and democratic accountability in our financial markets. Brothers and sisters, the petition is in the chat. This is a moment for all of us to send Democrats a message. We, the people, don't want a presidency that is focused on personal gain. We, the people, don't want the Trump family to turn our democracy into another one of their revenue streams. Fighting this crypto power grab is part of our larger fight against Trump and the oligarchs. Remember this, the best way to fight the oligarchs, the best way to take down the oligarchy that's emerged in our country is to hit them where it hurts, their financial bottom line. That's what we're doing here at Our Revolution, and I invite all of you to join us in this struggle. Now it's time to bring up our guests to talk a little bit more about this new thing called cryptocurrency, the Genius Bill, and more generally, what the crypto and big tech oligarchs want. First up, I want to welcome Molly White. She's an independent researcher, software engineer, and writer who focuses on this topic. Molly, welcome to our Organize to Win town hall.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. And let's start. When we were reaching out to our members and telling them we're doing this organizing call, a lot of folks said, not sure what cryptocurrency is, not sure what meme coins are. Most of us actually deal with dollars and cents. So if you could start out and tell us a little bit about this new currency, this new digital currency, and why do we need to have it? What's the ideology behind its popularity?
Yeah, so cryptocurrency is a digital asset, and it's an asset that exists only online. And sort of despite the name suggesting that it's a currency, most cryptocurrencies function more as a speculative asset rather than as a medium of exchange, which is why you'll often hear people refer to them as crypto assets or digital assets rather than cryptocurrency. But the assets are based on blockchain technology, which is essentially a distributed ledger that tracks transactions across many computers. There are millions of cryptocurrencies today, with Bitcoin being the primary one and the oldest. It was created in 2009. But you'll also hear people talking about things like stable coins, which was mentioned earlier in the call. That's an attempt to reduce some of the volatility in the cryptocurrency world by pegging an asset to a traditional currency like the US dollar. So you'll see Tether or Trump family's USD1, those are both stable coins. Um, there are also meme coins, which are tokens which are intended to have no real utility beyond entertainment and speculation. People like to gamble on meme coins, hoping that they can get in early and then they take off, and enough people buy in that those early buyers can turn a profit. Those are things like Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, and then, more recently we're seeing Trump, Melania, and these sort of celebrity-based meme coins. Um, Unlike dollars and euros and, the sort of traditional currencies that people are probably used to, cryptocurrencies operate pretty much independently from governments and banks and have varying degrees of decentralization. Um, Unlike stocks or other types of financial assets, there's no company there, there's no asset backing it, there's no revenue stream, which is partly why cryptocurrencies tend to be so volatile. As for the ideology, that really began with Bitcoin, which was created shortly after the 2008 financial crisis. And initially, it really promoted this vision of this new type of money that would be free from government control, from central bank manipulation, and from traditional financial intermediaries. The idea was that there would be this decentralized financial system where people could transact directly with one another, sort of like people transact with cash, but online. But with time, this sort of anti-government, anti-centralization stance has shifted quite a lot. And we now see many crypto advocates who are actively seeking government intervention via this lobbying through friendly regulation and policies when it benefits their investments. I think they've discovered that it can be very lucrative to have an in with the government. Um, and this ideological pivot has really coincided with the development of what is genuinely a shadow financial system within crypto that exists very similarly to what you see with traditional finance, with products like lending and derivatives and complex financial products, but without the same types of regulatory safeguards and transparency. And so many of these ideological claims about financial freedom and privacy and decentralization continue to attract new buyers and new participants, as well as, of course, the speculation and people who are hoping to become overnight millionaires. But in practical reality, most cryptocurrency functions more as a speculative and highly risky investment class rather than any sort of revolutionary financial system.
And so again, just break it down for me because I'm not a tech dude, tech bro by any stretch of the imagination. But so in terms of crypto, just so you said there's no asset behind it. There's no, it's not backed by gold. It's not backed
Right.
by a business, a revenue stream. So where does it get its value? Because
The
it seems,
value,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, like many things, the value is what people are willing to pay for it. But there is no actual underlying asset. You can't go to some institution and redeem your Bitcoin for some physical item or, service or anything like that. You really just are paying for this token in hopes that you could later sell it to somebody else for a higher price.
And what would make the price go up? Like, how would you be able to assess this is a good investment? I'm going to buy this currency, and I know in 5 years it's going to go up by, I'll get a return on investment by 20%. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't know that. In the same way, I suppose that you can't know that a stock is going to go up necessarily, but there is certainly more that you can evaluate in those types of
Yeah, like you
assets
look
in
at a
terms of,
company's business
right,
plan, like, do they have a good plan to sell ice cream or,
right.
or
With
soap or
Bitcoin,
whatever, right? Do they have a
yeah,
good product? Um,
right. With Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, people are really betting on the belief that, more people are going to want to buy this cryptocurrency down the road. And, unfortunately, crypto markets, you asked sort of what can cause the price to go up. Crypto markets are highly manipulated, frankly, and the lack of regulation has allowed for intense market manipulation. And so, people are actively engaged in trying to force these markets to go up through, sort of underhanded trading. Now we're also seeing people essentially petitioning the government to try to increase the price of cryptocurrency. There's this entire cryptocurrency lobby. Some of the things that they have been pushing for in the government are directly aimed at causing prices to go up. So you look at this Bitcoin reserve, for example. If the US government were to go out and purchase quantities of Bitcoin, that would cause the price to go up because this increased demand, on this Bitcoin, a limited supply causes the price to go up. And so some of these goals that they are pursuing are very directly tied to the trying to get this price to increase. Many of these people have substantial Bitcoin holdings that they would profit from, increasing in value as a result of those types of activities.
So if I'm getting this right, uh, crypto is basically uh, a currency which is not really a currency. It doesn't have any value, and there's only value in the eye of the beholder. And some of those beholders want the government to help make this asset more valuable. Is that what I'm
Yes.
understanding?
Yes. I mean, that's more or less
Like
correct,
I
certainly.
bought something, it's not really worth anything. Hey, government, will you make it worth something and create a reserve?
Right.
Wild. So one of the things that's, I guess, the crypto bros talk a lot about freedom, and privacy, and part of that is because dollars are traceable. Our bank accounts are watched by the U.S. government. They're monitored. And so this is an entity that really does is operates outside of any kind of government oversight, or even outside of the financial markets in certain ways, and outside of government regulation. Is that correct?
Well, there are regulations on financial institutions, including cryptocurrency businesses. The point of contention over the last handful of years has been which regulations apply to which businesses in which ways. And so, there have been substantial legal battles fought over whether crypto assets are securities, for example, which would put them under the authority of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Many of these companies are regulated under general regulations that apply to money services businesses, financial exchanges, and things like that. So there is some degree of regulation that should apply. The problem is that it is not applied. So even prior to this administration, we were seeing just a lack of enforcement in the crypto sector, where very few enforcement actions were being taken against companies even that were engaged in blatantly fraudulent activities. That increased somewhat when there was this massive collapse throughout the crypto industry in 2022, with big name disasters like the FTX cryptocurrency exchange collapsing, and quite a few other companies collapsing around the same time. At that point, regulators started to step in a little bit more and try to at least clean up some of the carnage that had already happened. But now that Trump has taken office, we're actually seeing a lot of those enforcement actions being canceled. At least 4 active cases from the SEC have been dismissed with prejudice, meaning that the cases cannot be brought again. The same number have been paused pending resolution. And then a number of other investigations of these companies that were, many of which were very close to litigation, have been dropped with no action. And so there was frankly very little regulation and enforcement happening prior to the Trump administration, but the crypto industry has claimed that this degree of regulation was completely untenable for the industry, that they could not continue to do business under what they claimed was over enforcement. And this has resulted in a world where now the SEC has been completely called off the beat. The crypto enforcement team has been dismantled. The Department of Justice has been directed not to prosecute many types of financial crimes involving cryptocurrency. The cryptocurrency enforcement team at the Department of Justice has been dismantled. And so we are truly in the Wild West at this point, where there is very, very little regulation in place, and the cryptocurrency industry is actively writing what is supposed to be new legislation to govern the crypto sector, such that it benefits them and does not require the types of consumer protections, transparency, auditing, oversight that you might hope to see in a true financial world, in a true financial market.
So, Molly, let me ask you this, and then I want to bring up Mark, our next guest. Uh, So given that the Trump administration has rolled back any type of government oversight, what do you foresee as the risks to our politics and our economy, our political economy, from this highly speculative venture that is tantamount to gambling or guessing and hoping for the best?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's substantial risk both to the political economy and the traditional economy at this point. I think the one blessing of the collapse in 2022, with FTX falling apart, with Celsius exploding, with all of these cryptocurrency companies going under, is that people who didn't hold cryptocurrency were largely insulated from those disasters. If you didn't have crypto stored on that exchange, if you weren't holding, Bitcoin, and then you were subjected to the price decrease as a result of this industry-wide collapse, you probably wouldn't have noticed it had happened if it wasn't for news headlines about Sam Bankman-Fried. But I think that now we are in a world where the risk of crypto collapse actually extends well beyond people who hold cryptocurrency, because this aggressive deregulation that we're seeing is dismantling critical firewalls between the crypto world and traditional banking, broader financial markets. And this threatens everyone, including people who've never purchased cryptocurrency, people who don't even know what cryptocurrency is. Um, a significant crypto market collapse, if we continue along this road, could begin to cascade through interconnected financial products, including, retirement accounts, pension funds, essential financial systems that ordinary people depend upon, much like how in 2008, during the financial crisis, people were financially devastated even if they had never invested in mortgage-backed securities. So I think that that is a real concern at this point, as we're seeing the crypto world begin to integrate itself with banking, traditional finance, these types of things. And we're seeing government funds being put aside for these types of crypto reserves, both at the federal level and at the state level, I should mention. We're seeing these types of investments being put into state level financial systems in Arizona, in New Hampshire, and there are several other bills throughout the country that have been aggressively lobbied for by the crypto industry. Then, of course, there's, as you mentioned, the threat to the political system. The fact that the office of the president is essentially for sale at this point. President Trump has used this meme coin to create essentially a crypto for access scheme where he's encouraged people to go out and buy as much of his meme coin as they can, so that people can be invited to this private dinner with him at one of his golf clubs. The top 25 holders will get a private reception with him and a tour of, I believe, the White House. And these are people who are, investing millions of dollars into this Trump meme coin in order to buy access to him. In fact, the top holder appears to be a very shady crypto entrepreneur named Justin Sun, who previously spent $75 million on Trump's World Liberty Financial Token, a separate crypto venture, to obtain an advisory position at his business. And then very shortly afterwards, the SEC case that was open against him and his company was paused pending resolution. And that was a case that alleged fraud. So this was not just, violations of securities laws. Oh, maybe he didn't understand the regulations or the regulations weren't clear. This was alleging serious fraud. And so this is the top invitee at the Trump dinner that's coming up. And, we're seeing Trump overseeing cryptocurrency policy, calling off regulators. Meanwhile, he has a World Liberty Financial cryptocurrency platform. He has the USD1 stablecoin. He has 2 meme coin projects. He has a new financial platform that's being built into his Truth Social platform, possibly with a token of its own. His sons have a Bitcoin mining firm. There are multiple NFT projects. There's a rumored upcoming crypto game. He's got direct investments into cryptocurrencies. This is a truly ludicrous list of financial entanglements, that's only growing longer by the week. And he and his family, and close associates directly stand to benefit from the policies that he is influencing. And I think this is a catastrophic and frankly existential problem for the United States right now.
Thank you, Molly. I want to go to our next guest. Mark Hayes is with Americans for Financial Reform. AFR has been one of the leading groups that's been working on Capitol Hill to hold the industry, the cryptocurrency industry, accountable. Last week, as I mentioned at the top of this call, Democrats surprisingly showed some backbone. Senate Democrats. They stood together and blocked the Genius Act in committee. This Genius Act is a bill that was written by the industry, but even though it was voted down, it's still not dead yet. Democrats are at the negotiating table, and a vote could come up at any point next week, the week after. And so, Mark, I want you to tell us a little bit about this most recent play by the crypto industry to introduce the Genius Act. Tell us a little bit about the bill and the critique and why it's dangerous.
Sure. Well, thank you, Joseph, and thanks to our Revolution for having us here today. Yeah, I think to understand a little bit about why we're so concerned about how the bill fails to provide consumer investor protections and may actually amplify risk in the financial system, I think it's important to elaborate a bit on some of the things Molly mentioned around stablecoins, just to understand a little bit about what they are, what they're supposed to do, and how they actually work. So, as Molly said, a lot of crypto assets are highly volatile because their value is often only in the eye of the beholder. And stablecoins were created in an attempt to address this problem. Basically, the idea is you give that coin a price that everyone agrees on, usually like putting a price tag on it, like a $1 equals one mark coin, for example, and everyone agrees $1 equals one mark coin. And then you back that asset with a bucket of reserve assets. And those reserve assets are a promise to the holder. That promise is, hey, if you buy my crypto tokens and use them to do speculative crypto investment, if you come back to me and want to redeem those coins, I will give them back to you for the same price you bought them for. And that's essentially how stable coins are supposed to work. The problem or the challenges are a couple different things. So first of all, what stablecoin issuers are doing is doing what banks already do. When banks take a deposit from you, they're essentially holding on to that money with a promise that it'll give it back to you on demand. And we already have a regulatory framework to regulate consumer banking. It's not perfect, but it's been built over decades of efforts learning from past mistakes. And stablecoins, right now, they're not actually used for payments for the most part. Instead, they're used to fuel speculative crypto investment. They're often called the poker chips in the crypto casino because it's a lot easier to take your US dollars, cash them in for these stable coins one time, pay one fee, do your trading on crypto platforms, and then cash out. But what that means is that they're the engine for all that speculative, risky, and often predatory activity. What crypto wants stablecoins to be is a payment revolution where somehow, because of the magic of blockchain technology, these stablecoins will make payments faster and cheaper and safer. The reality is that blockchains have huge problems with hacks and congestion. And more importantly, stablecoins are anything but stable. Stablecoins lose their price or depeg constantly, one by one report, thousands of times a year. The issuers often mislead people about the nature and composition of their reserves. The crypto crash that Molly mentioned was initiated by the crash of a coin called Terra Luna, which was an even more esoteric thing. It wasn't a stable coin backed by assets. It was backed by a fancy computer algorithm. And that crash precipitated the entire market crash of 2022. And so Genius is supposed to be a regulatory framework that reduces that risk. And what's really important to understand with the crypto industry is that the crypto industry says it wants regulatory clarity, But what we see in more than basically 2 decades of work on financial reform is that many industries come hat in hand to Washington saying we just need new rules of the road for our industry. But what's really happening is they built a business model based on regulatory evasion. Payday lenders, when they first came onto the scene, said, "Oh, we're providing a service like lending, but it's not actually lending. So please don't regulate us like lenders." And that's exactly what the crypto industry has been doing with the stablecoin bills like the Genius Act. It's a regulatory measure that creates a light touch licensing regime for issuers. It allows them to act like banks, but have much less stringent rules, whether it's capital requirements, requirements of management, oversight, auditing, and more. And so there are a range of problems we have with the bill in terms of it fails to deal with the risks inherent in stablecoins and actually could amplify those risks if it comes into law. And I can say more about that, Joe, but I want to make sure if you have any other questions, I'm speaking to you.
Well, let me ask you this. What is what's the ideological motivation for this industry?
So I think big picture, as Molly alluded to, there were some grand notions of financial freedom and other things that spurred from the financial crisis. And don't get us wrong, AFR, and our Rev have worked on challenging Wall Street for a long time, and there are many problems that persist with our financial system. It would be nice if there was some alternatives, but in so many different ways, crypto has not delivered on its promises, and in fact is repeating many of the same predatory financial mistakes of the past. Right? Blockchains are supposed to be safer, but they're beset with hacks and flaws. Crypto is supposed to be decentralized, but when you look at the ownership structures, it's highly concentrated, and on and on and on. And so when you look at the crypto ideology today, when you look at people like Mark Andreessen, who's the one of the lead venture capital crypto investors, May16Z, he and folks like Brian Armstrong, the lead of Coinbase, and even Elon Musk, all envision a world where crypto isn't just disrupting the financial system, but replacing it and putting it under their control. They're looking for a regulatory framework, much like the tech industry used disruption as a sort of excuse to rewrite, internet freedom rules as a way to profit immensely, but also to control the underlying financial system itself. And Genius is one pillar in that effort, right? If the crypto industry is able to get the privileges of banks without paying for the same kind of obligations, offering us the same kinds of protections, they're going to get access to Fed master accounts, which is basically a simple way of saying they're going to get a backstop or a bailout. There's going to be a whole host of other things that they're going to get is going to give them the opportunity to profit and get their assets to more investors. But it's more likely that taxpayers and others will shoulder the costs if and when those platforms do collapse. So they're looking for profit and power and a financial system remade in their image that really throws consumer investor protections out the door in favor of kind of a half-baked technological premise.
And in some ways, it sounds like they want to be free of nation states and
Yeah,
the rules that govern them.
That's correct. And the irony here, right, is with stablecoins have been marketed both as a new kind of almost private currency that would bypass traditional banks. But at the same time, as we discussed, stablecoin issuers are looking to have access to the banking system in ways that would sort of prop up their activity without having to deal with those obligations. And one of our biggest concerns with Genius, the concerns are many and varied, right? They allow issuers to back coins with very risky reserves. If stablecoin issuers go under, if you had a bank deposit, you'd be insured by FDIC insurance. But with this bill, a stablecoin holder is shunted into a complicated and complex bankruptcy process. Stablecoins have become the coin of choice or coin of the realm for a wide array of illicit finance issues, but this bill fails to fully address the illicit finance concerns with stablecoins. But two of the biggest concerns we have are that this bill would allow big tech platforms like X, Amazon, even a company like Walmart to become de facto issuers of what amounts to a private currency. They become their own bank. And we've had rules in place to block that for decades. But in one fell swoop, this would allow, Amazon to be your bank, your currency issuer, and your retailer. And you can imagine the kind of privacy risks and market concentration and monopoly risks that would create. But this bill fails to deal with that, and in fact would legitimize such a business model in pretty short order.
Mark Hayes, thank you. I just want to underscore that last point. These are global corporate powers that want to extricate themselves from governments and they want to be able to issue their own money. So when you think about where we're going, it might be the purest expression of oligarchy, where the oligarchs themselves create their own countries and issue their own currencies. And we'll talk more about creating their own countries, freedom cities, on another call. But this is part of the ideology that's driving this. There's a small group of very wealthy people who believe that we should be consumers, not citizens who act in the public sphere. And they want to control everything, including money. So that being said, I want to encourage everyone on the call to again sign up to oppose the Genius Act. We want to continue to keep pressure on members of the Senate and make sure that we get a bill that is not written by the crypto industry. We want to make sure we have a bill that has protections for consumers and citizens. With that, I want to bring up Senator Jeff Merkley. Jeff is a good friend of our revolution, and he has been recently leading the fight to block self-dealing by public officials. He introduced the End Crypto Corruption Act to stop politicians from profiting off crypto schemes. Jeff, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the state of play on Capitol Hill in terms of bringing crypto under public control.
Hey, Joseph, thanks for inviting me to join you all. And thank you, all of you who are part of our revolution and trying to, well, save our country, and not just save the structure of our republic, but proceed to have a government that really is by and for the people, who address the healthcare, housing, education, equality, and opportunity, and good paying jobs that we need in this nation. There's two kind of realms in this crypto. And one is that it's, as a digital currency, it's been great for money laundering. It's been great for financing guns. It's been great for financing drug cartels. It's been great for financing terrorism. And somehow it'd be helpful to get our hands around that if a bill was done right on the regulatory side. But I'm going to talk to you about a different issue, and that is the self-dealing, as Joseph said. This is about the direct corruption of our elected officials. And it's really kind of a stunning moment. I remember, 30 years ago or so, when senators would publish a book, you'd have a lobbyist who might buy 10,000 copies in order to help that person make money. Make personal money. We banned it. We said, no, you can't do that. And you can't give gifts to members of Congress. They have to be there living off their salary and working for the people, not for their personal gain. But here we have an extraordinary moment in which President Trump is driving crypto economy for his personal gain. And I'm going to talk about two different coins that he's involved in. The first is a meme coin. A meme coin is basically a digital collectible. I mean, you don't even get an actual coin to put in a frame on your wall. You pay the price for it, and you get a digital representation. I guess you could print it out and put a picture on your wall if you wanted. And essentially, the person who's selling it gets the money, and they get to keep that money. They've sold you a product, and the product is something you can't use except to hang on your wall, or perhaps trade the way people trade baseball cards. And once in a while, somebody will make a little money in that or lose a little money, but a lot of people lose a lot of money doing that. But in promoting his own Trump coin, He has basically cashed in massively. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And he has now proceeded to say those who buy the most of his meme coins, the 220 who buy the most, are being invited to a special event at his Virginia Golf Club. And the 22 who buy that are the very top of that list get a special deal at the White House. So he's selling access to himself through these meme coins. And you have folks like the head of a freight company saying, hey, I bought $20 million of this because I want to change the rules regarding freight moving from Mexico into the US. I mean, it is an absolute selling of access and influence to whoever buys these coins, access to the president. So the second big thing Trump's involved in is he produced a digital coin that can be used in international transactions. You give him $1, he gives you a dollar in digital currency. And then he can take and invest that dollar and keep all the proceeds for himself. Ideally, if you want to cash in your digital coin, as was mentioned, they has to give you $1 back. We'll see how that works out. But meanwhile, let me take an example. You have MGX, which is a company very, very closely tied to the United Arab Emirates. And it said, hey, we're going to do a $2 billion investment in Binance using Trump's digital coin, it's called, or stable coin, it's called USD1, the USD1 coin. This means Trump or his family company gets to keep that $2 billion. They don't get to keep it, but they get to invest it. And if they invest it in stable bonds and maybe they're earning 4% a year, they're making $80 million a year because MGX chose, instead of paying their investment to Binance in dollars, they're going to do it with these digital coins. I mean, why would they use particularly Trump coins? Because they have a goal, and what their goal has been, they want microprocessors for AI. They've been very clear that they're seeking influence for a result. And this is also corrupt in another way, in that our founders in Article 1 of the Constitution, they said, hey, we're really worried about foreign governments buying influence with the president. We're so worried about it, we'll put in a special clause called the Emoluments Clause, which says no elected official in the federal government can take any sort of gift of value or transaction from a foreign government, something of value. And so you have presidents of the United States who have been given a Medal of Honor that has value because maybe it was made out of silver or gold, and they've gone to Congress and say, hey, Congress, can I have permission? Because this is in Article 1, it's widely understood, Congress has to give permission. Well, of course, Trump has not gone to Congress. And with MGX so closely associated with UAE, this really is a potential violation of the Emoluments Clause. But certainly it's corrupt selling of influence. And get this, the head of MGX is UAE's national security advisor. That's how closely MGX is tied to the UAE government, United Arab Emirates. And Binance, the head of Binance, is a convicted criminal who is lobbying the president of the United States, Trump, for a pardon. So the story gets muddier and muddier. And if this was the case, I mean, anyone who wants to buy influence with a U.S. senator or a member of Congress, a committee chair, would say, hey, make your own meme coin, make your own digital currency for us to use in transactions, and we will make you really rich. And of course, that would massive corruption across our government. But here it is, massive corruption at the top. So I've introduced the End Crypto Corruption Act. I'm really pleased that Bernie and Elizabeth and a bunch of other folks are co-sponsoring it. We really want to make sure that any crypto bill that goes through the Senate has this bill, this End Crypto Corruption Act, embedded in the bill. And because we know any bill by itself can't get to the floor without 60 votes, and so therefore that's not going to happen. We're not going to get Republicans on board trying to stop Trump's corruption. And the bill would cover everyone. I mean, it would cover senior executive branch officials, the president, the vice president, certainly the members of Congress, and even these special government employees like Musk. So that's the story. We are seeing open corruption on a monumental scale beyond anything ever imagined in the United States of America. You all might remember that there was a vice president under Nixon who accepted $100,000 in bribes, and eventually he lost his vice presidency because of it. He was fined a whole $10,000. It happened back when I was in high school. It was the reason for my very first letter to an editor was saying, how is it possible that you can take $100,000 in bribes and only pay a $10,000 fine? In this case, Trump believes that he will never be held accountable for his corruption. Well, let's put an end to it. Let's pass the End Crypto Corruption Act. Let's say no way is the U.S. government up for sale. And if we don't act on this, then shame on us. Shame on the House members. Shame on the Senate members if we allow this to continue. All right, that's the scoop. Thank you all.
Senator Merkley, thank you for taking time to join us, and thank you for helping lead this fight against public corruption on Capitol Hill. We're in this fight because it's fundamental to save our democracy. It's not just creeping authoritarianism. It's creeping. It's sucking all taxpayers of our resources. At the end of the day, privatization and plunder of our government.
It's open selling of influence. It's absolutely corrupt. We have to stop it. Thank you so much.
We have no other choice. Again, Senator Jeff Merkley. Next up, I want to bring up one of the champions of our movement, U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren. Senator Warren, as you all know, has been one of the leading champions on consumer finance protections. She spearheaded the creation of the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, which was unfortunately gutted by Donald Trump, and she's a leading voice on making sure that the crypto bros are held accountable and that we stop Trump's crypto scam. Senator Warren, welcome to our Organized to Win call.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate your having me here tonight. It is good to be here with all of you. I find this very energizing, and I want to start by saying thank you to everybody on this call who got engaged in advocacy last week. And thank you for your willingness to stay engaged in this crypto fight this week. You know, I get it. Crypto is a kind of tricky topic, and it's not one that a lot of people on this call have traditionally engaged on or organized around. But we just have to face the fact that this is an industry that has pumped money into our elections to get friendly to them, people elected. And we need to look at how they want to take over a big part of our financial system. So how we organize to make sure that we get some curbs in place here. So what I want to do is just spend a few minutes talking specifically about the Genius Act, which you've heard about tonight. And my good friend Jeff Merkley was just talking about. So a stable coin is pretty similar to a bank deposit, just without all the protections. It's a type of cryptocurrency that's designed to maintain a stable value, usually $1. So you give a company $1 of cash and they give you a $1 stable coin. And then you use that stable coin to make payments in the crypto financial system. You're then supposed to be able to bring that $1 stable coin back. You take it back to the company and redeem it, and you get your dollar in cash back. So last week, Senate Republicans tried to jam through a bill. And the way they tried to do it is they tried to force the Democrats to take a vote on basically a blank check. That is, they didn't even have a copy of the bill out there. And this is a bill that would help Donald Trump rake in hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially billions of dollars, and put consumers, our national security, and our financial system at risk. You know, it really tells you something about Republicans today. When you understand that the majority leader, Senator Thune, actually forced a vote with no text of the bill available to any of the senators who were voting. Just said, we're doing this, we got the majority, we're going to roll everybody. And we believe that crypto will be able to twist enough Democratic arms that everybody will go ahead and vote for it. Well, I am happy to say it did not go well for the Republicans. Democrats actually stood together. We used the filibuster and we defeated the vote. And that is due to a lot of people who were on this call. So again, like I said at the top, thank you, thank you, thank you. But understand, we still have a long way to go because they're going to try this again. They're not finished. Democrats standing firm actually brought Republicans back to the negotiating table. But we still don't have a revised version of the bill that they want to turn into law. And as currently written, the Genius Act, as they call it, has several flaws. And I just want to mention them so you kind of hear them in categories. Number one, it doesn't have basic consumer protection to make sure that customers don't get scammed. You know, these are the basic common sense rules that apply when you swipe a debit card or you send a Venmo payment. These folks want to say, but if you use a crypto coin, you lose all of those protections. And all that does is create one more way to cheat hardworking people. So the biggest, or I shouldn't say the biggest, but one of the big problems is not enough consumer protection. Second, it is a big giveaway to big tech companies. It lets them issue their own private currencies. Think of Facebook issuing its own currency, or more to the point, think of Elon Musk, who bought X and now wants to create X money and have his own coin. He says that in 5 years, he will own half of the financial system worldwide if we push this statute on through. This would be the first time in the financial system where you all remember the old Glass-Steagall. There used to be a wall between banks and other kinds of financial institutions. Tore that down at the end of the 90s and ended up in the crash in 2008. Well, we have another wall, and that's been the wall between finance and commerce. You can't be a bank and run a retail outlet. It's why Walmart couldn't run its own bank. This bill says, but with crypto, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos can both do the commerce side and build out from that and have their own crypto coin. The problem with that is that it creates a lot of risk running both ways. The crypto starts to tank, it brings down the commercial side, or the commercial side gets in trouble, it brings down the financial side. So that's the second kind of problem we've got. Third kind of problem, lets these big tech get bigger. Maybe that's the way to say it. Third one is undermines our national security. The industry itself says that stable coins are now the new kingpin of crypto illicit finance. That means used by terrorists, used by drug traffickers, used by human traffickers. Many of you remember the online scams, ransomware. You know what portion of ransomware is paid for through crypto? 100%. The whole business model relies on crypto. And as the crypto industry itself says, stable coins, what this bill is about 60% of that overall illicit activity. So there we've got the big problems here. But the biggest one is the one that Jeff Merkley just talked about, and that is the president and his family are allowed to rake in cash in what is just blatant corruption. Let's focus for just one more minute on that. Jeff has explained to you about it and the bill that he's got going, but I just want to tell you a little more of the backstory here. A few weeks after we voted the Genius Act out of the Banking Committee, with all of the Republicans voting in favor of it, half the Democrats voting in favor of it, half the Democrats voting against it, Donald Trump and his family issued their own stablecoin called USD1, a play on the US dollar and the presidency. That's what he's cashing in on here. So now Trump and his family can make money off these stablecoins in two ways. Every time somebody uses a stable coin, there's a little fee that comes from that, Trump gets a little piece of that action. The second way that he makes money off these stable coins is, remember how I said at the beginning, you give the stablecoin issuer your dollar and then you go use the stable coin. You don't get interest on that dollar. But Trump and his family get to use the dollar. They can invest it somewhere else. They can buy something else with it, but they make money off it. So two ways that Donald Trump makes money. Once on the transaction fee on every transaction, and second, giving the Trump family an enormous interest-free loan. Now, you and I might look at that and say, oh yeah, come on, Elizabeth, but how big a deal is that? I only am buying $10 worth of stable coins. Well, foreign nationals, giant corporations, have figured out that they can actually make a huge contribution to Donald Trump and his family personally by using Trump's stablecoin USD just as a way to pay him. So the example we have right now, and I think Jeff talked about this, an Abu Dhabi firm backed by the government of the United Arab Emirates used USD1, Trump's coin, for a $2 billion investment in the largest global crypto exchange, Binance, essentially giving Trump just a cut of the deal. Remember, all those transactions fees plus interest-free use of the money. This is bad enough with the United Arab Emirates, but it's a model for every other foreign government, for every corporation in the world to use Trump's stablecoin to buy and sell things and to make investments and to cut him in on the action right out in front where he can see it, you can see it, I can see it. Understand, this is not some small corrupt grift on the side. Trump's stablecoin is now the 5th largest in the entire world. And that one, just that one Abu Dhabi deal alone could earn him more than $100 million in just this year. In its current form, this bill does nothing to address Trump's corruption. It actually makes the corruption worse by driving even more money into stable coins and into the crypto market, expanding the reach of Trump's stable coin. We need to fix these problems, and we've got to fix them in the base bill before there's another vote. As Jeff rightly said, offering us an amendment that will fail. Remember, we did amendments back in the committee. The Republicans voted against every one of them. Democrats had 70 amendments, lost every single amendment. So we're not falling for that trick. It's got to be in the base bill. Democrats have offered solutions throughout this process, and we will continue to do that. And that is why I wanted to be here tonight, because this is where you come in. We can't bless Trump's corruption and put consumers, our financial system, our national security at risk. And we need you to keep your elected officials accountable on that. I am thrilled that you are here tonight and that you are part of this fight. We don't need a show vote on this corruption. We don't need a pretend amendment. We need to see that the fix is included in the actual Genius Act. And that is Jeff Merkley's, we're calling it an amendment, but it's not the amendment process. We need it in the base bill. So I'm asking everybody, stay loud, call your representatives, and hold folks accountable for passing a bill only if it solves the massive corruption of Donald Trump and his crypto dealings. We actually have a chance here. We've got some energy behind this. We've got some momentum, but now it's going to take the real grassroots pressure for this to happen. So thank you all for getting us this far in the fight. Everybody predicted that you'll lose this from the beginning because crypto has all the money. But the truth is, they may have the money, but we got the people and we got the fight. So thank you for staying in this fight. We really need you.
Senator Warren, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to engage with our members about the stakes, because the stakes here are truly existential for our financial system, for our government, and know that our members are going to continue to keep the pressure on, working with our partners at Americans for Financial Reform. And again, thank you for joining us call. I want to make sure that everyone on this call continues to stay engaged on the fight against the Genius Act and making sure that we end the corruption and the other risks that are inherent in creating a new cryptocurrency regime. To stay involved, to get involved, use the link in the chat. We're going to send petitions to senators, but we're also going to be following up and making sure that you have an opportunity to engage directly with your lawmakers on Capitol Hill. In addition to that, I want to encourage folks who want to be a part of our fight against oligarchy to join our citizen action team. Going after the crypto bros is just one part of our fight. We need, in order to defeat oligarchy, we have to go after the bottom line of the oligarchs. We have to make sure that we block their contracts, we block loans, we block grants that are given by the United States government. We need to make sure we block legislation that they want. That is how we're going to defeat oligarchy, by hitting their bottom line. And I want to invite all of you to join our larger Fight Oligarchy team. The link is in the chat. We call it the Citizen Action Team. We have over 50,000 activists. We're going to be ramping up our action around the United States to fight billionaires who are trying to take our country from us. Again, join our Citizen Action Team, be a part of our network. Everyone has a role that you can play in your community and in your country. And then with that, I want to thank everyone who hopped on this evening. And I want to remind you here at Our Revolution about our mantra. And it is this: when we organize, we win. I want to invite anyone who's in the Zoom room, take yourselves off mute and say it with me. When we organize,
We win.
We win.
when we organize,
We win.
when we organize,
We win.
brothers and sisters, we have no other choice but to fight to save our democracy and our country. Thank you and good night.
Record.